I've played a lot of VR games, and many of them are pretty good. Their communities aren't really so great. That's why in this video, I will be figuring out which VR game has the worst community. So sit back, relax, and watch this very, very controversial video. Before we get into what VR game has the worst community, let's talk about what do I think is a bad community. I think what a bad community is just sexism, mostly toxic, racism, etc. More things that you think is a bad community. But I'm not gonna include like children or adults or people just playing the game on their own age or what they think they are. I will only count them as how toxic they are, how racist they are, and how bad do people think the community is. Also, do not say that VRChat or Pavlov has the worst community without watching the entire video. You guys gotta stop doing that, actually. Also, I will be counting on how bad the moderation system is or how bad the reporting system is. Kind of what Pavlov does, because there's no point of having a report system if it doesn't work, Pavlov. Come on, man. In conclusion, I care about how toxic it is, how bad the moderation system is, and how bad people think the community is or game. And I repeat, I am not going to count if there's kids, adults, or gay people or furries. I'm not going to count that. That's just stupid. I'm not counting that. Before we get to the bad communities, let's talk about good communities. Games that have a good community is really rare to find, especially in VR, but there's kind of like at least 5 or 6, and the ones that I'm talking about is probably most of them like single player games like The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, Blade and Sorcery, Bone Lab, etc. And I'm talking about communities that aren't really mean or toxic, and most of them aren't really toxic, or they just don't get into fights because why would they? I guess the one thing that these communities complain about is probably the lack of updates and info they get about their game, which I really agree on, but I don't really think that's called a bad community because they're not even hating on anything, they're just complaining about updates. What I'm trying to say is, most single player games have a good community. It's really rare to find a single player game that has a bad community, especially in VR. There's a lot of VR games with a bad community. Literally all of them are multiplayer. If you're curious, let me name them off for you. Gorilla Tag, Rec Room, Pavlov aka Pavlov Shack, VRChat, Echo VR, rest in peace, Onward, and Population 1. What do most of these have in common? Take your time. Here's a little timer. Five of them represent guns or paintball guns. So if you said that, good on you, you got it correct. Which one doesn't have a bad community out of that list? I'd say it's either Rec Room or Population 1. If you disagree, I don't care. Now let's talk about what game has the worst community out of the bunch, and let's rank them. The best and worst community has to go to Population 1. Even though people teabag your bodies 24/7, I don't really think it's really that bad. So Population 1 is gonna get 7th place. And Rec Room's gonna be beside that in 6th place. And number 5th spot would probably be Echo VR, rest in peace. The reason why Echo VR is on this list is 1, you probably never played Echo VR before it got shut down, and 2, back then it was so toxic, like most people didn't like the game, but it was a good concept, I really loved the game, but the toxicity was just unbearable. That's why I'm giving it in 5th spot. And number 4th spot was kind of hard to pick,
but I'm gonna pick Gorilla Tag. I know you're probably typing away already that it should be in 3rd or 2nd place, but no sirree. Gorilla Tag isn't really that bad if you think about it. Gorilla Tag is just a tiny bit toxic, and the moderation system is so bad. Like, I see people flying around in servers, people throwing a bunch of snowballs, and a bunch of other things, man. They've really got to add more moderators. You expect there's going to be like at least more than 500 moderators, but there's less than 50 moderators, which is really stupid to think about, because there's 50,000 people always online 24/7 every single day. There's 50,000 people, 50, every single day. That's why I'm gonna give it 4th spot. I couldn't go higher, I couldn't go lower. In 3rd spot, we have Onward. If you don't know what Onward is, just think about Pavlov, just more realistic. That's basically what Onward is. People in Onward are really toxic. Like, people be just screaming N-words, you know, the usual, what you see in a first-person shooter. But it's usually people just screaming the N-word, people just screaming at you in general, being mad if you stole their kill or something, etc. Just regular first-person things, which is the reason why I'm giving it 3rd place. I couldn't go higher, I couldn't go lower, just like what I said about Gorilla Tag. In 2nd place, this was a really hard decision, but I'm giving it to VR Chat. No, it's not because of the furries, don't say that already. It's because of how many P3DOs there is. If you don't know what that is, then you shouldn't be watching this. And not only that, there's a bunch of toxic players, a very terrible fan base, and sometimes starting cults. Like, come on, bro, that's getting in 2nd place for sure. But it's already noticeable. Pavlov is 1st place. If you don't know what Pavlov is, you probably just recently joined in the VR community. Pavlov has one of the worst communities I've ever seen in my life. Not only that, it's just straight up racist, it's homophobic, sexist, and you can get killed for literally anything. For example, one time I got kicked because I was a little bit too loud. Here's another example. One time I got kicked because I was a little bit too good and had the highest score of everyone. Which is literally the reason why I made a toxic police video. If you want to check that out, you can check out the video right after this. Please watch it all. So yeah, now we know what VR game has the worst community. I basically spoiled it at the start. I am really sorry, but I'm too lazy to change it because it's literally like 2 a.m. in the morning. I am not doing any of that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you haven't already, subscribe. It really helps a lot. Okay. Oh god. Anyways, like the video if you haven't. Subscribe, I guess. And if you want, you can watch this video that I'm gonna put on screen after I'm done talking in the outro and stuff. Yeah, thanks for watching.